Dillon Gabriel had no business throwing 52 passes in his first real test against an elite Steelers defense. Yet Kevin Stefanski, under pressure and seemingly out of answers, pushed that exact plan, and the result was a mess of sacks, stalled drives, and a lifeless offense. It's not just a bad call. It's evidence of a coach who's lost his grip on situational football. In a game where balance has saved them, the Browns look panicked and predictable. There's no vision, no adjustment, just stubbornness disguised as confidence.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Now, that stubbornness is threatening to derail the entire season. The conversation isn't just about poor execution. It's about a leadership structure that's failing at every level. With Andrew Berry's job security in question, and the schedule only getting tougher, this feels like a tipping point. Every game from here on out could be Stefanski's last, unless ownership steps in. The fans aren't asking for miracles. They're demanding accountability. The Browns just got humiliated again, and this time, fans have absolutely had it. Not just with the loss, not just with the play calling, but with the entire direction of franchise. Because losing to your biggest rival is bad enough. But losing like this, with a game plan that made no sense, with a rookie quarterback getting thrown around like a crash test dummy, that's next-level dysfunction. Let's start with what everyone's still shaking their heads about. Kevin Stefanski had Dillon Gabriel throw the ball 52 times against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 52. In a game where the run game was completely abandoned. Against a defense that thrives on quarterback pressure. Against a defensive front that already had a mismatch advantage. What did anyone expect was going to happen? 6 sacks happened. A brutal third down percentage happened. Gabriel getting destroyed happened. That's not development. That's not building for the future. That's reckless. And for fans who watch this team repeat the same self-inflicted mistakes year after year, this wasn't just another frustrating Sunday. It was the breaking point. The calls to fire Kevin Stefanski, they're not quiet whispers anymore. They're everywhere. On Twitter, on fan forums, in the post-game interviews. People are done waiting for something to click. Because right now, the only thing clicking is opposing defenses teeing off on this offense. It's not just that the team lost. It's how they lost. No creativity. No adjustment. No urgency. Just a stubborn coach forcing a game plan that clearly wasn't working. And let's be clear, this isn't just one bad game. This has been building. The decision-making has been suspect for a while. Running the ball on 3rd and long, then passing on 3rd and short, wasting timeouts, predictable play calls. The lack of flexibility in game has cost this team before. But this game, it felt like Stefanski stopped even pretending to adjust. And the Browns paid for it, badly. Gabriel is a rookie. He's still learning. You'd think the game plan would reflect that. Instead, Stefanski decided to put the entire weight of the offense on a young QB's shoulders, and got exactly what everyone feared. Pressure, turnovers, no rhythm, and absolutely no help from a run game that should have been leaned on from the jump. And this is where the conversation goes beyond Stefanski and straight to front office. Because if the head coach is making these calls and nobody's stepping in, then what are we even doing here? GM Andrew Berry is getting dragged too, and rightfully so. Fans aren't just blaming Stefanski. They're looking at the entire organizational structure, the decisions being made, the lack of accountability, the stubborn commitment to the system, even when it clearly isn't working. This game against the Steelers wasn't just a loss. It was a turning point. A rivalry game like this is supposed to be a gut check, a moment where leadership shows they know what they're doing. Instead, what fans got was a coach completely out of touch with what his team needed, and a front office that appears unwilling or unable to step in. And with games against the Dolphins and Patriots on the horizon, this could spiral even further. These aren't soft opponents. These are teams that will expose every flaw, every coaching misfire, every weak link. If Stefanski stays and the Browns drop another 1 or 2 games with the same flat, mismanaged style, it won't just be fans calling for heads. It'll be national media, former players, analysts, and maybe even ownership Let's be honest. This team was supposed to be better than this. The talent is there. The roster isn't perfect, but it's not bottom tier either. The offensive line has strength. The defense is playmakers. There are pieces here. But it doesn't matter how much talent you have if you can't manage it. And that's the root of the Browns' problem. Bad management from the top down. The offense looks lost. The execution is sloppy. And the only thing consistent about Stefanski's play calling is how predictable it is. Defenses know what's coming before the snap. And when your coach is the one giving opponents the advantage, that's a huge red flag. And the development of young talent? It's not happening. Gabriel being forced into a role he's not ready for his proof. You don't throw a rookie QB into a high-pressure divisional game and ask him to carry the offense with no help. That's not coaching. That's throwing darts and hoping one hits the bullseye. And it's not just unfair to Gabriel. It's damaging. You want to ruin a young quarterback's confidence? That's how you do it. The fans know it. They're not just frustrated. They're furious. The anger isn't over one game. It's over watching the cycle repeat itself over and over while ownership and management do nothing. And now, the fan base is looking ahead, not because they're excited, but because they want something to change. And that's where Shedeur Sanders' name keeps popping up. Not because people think it's happening tomorrow, but because fans are already looking past the season, already dreaming about a new quarterback, a new coach, a new start. That's how disconnected people feel from the current direction. They're mentally checked out, looking ahead to college QBs, fantasizing about Deion Sanders coaching the Browns. That's how far we've fallen. It's not about logic at this point. It's about emotion. People are tired. They're tired of watching talented players get misused. They're tired of being embarrassed in big games. They're tired of seeing zero accountability while the same mistakes get repeated weekly. And now, the pressure is boiling over. Stefanski isn't just coaching to save the season. He's coaching to save his job. But after what we just saw, it might already be too late. And let's not ignore the disconnect between NFL insiders and the fans. Because while the media still plays nice, still talks about Stefanski as a smart offensive mind, the fans are watching a completely different product. They see the chaos, the poor game management, the lack of urgency. They see a coach who's become part of the problem. And it's not just on game day. It's the whole vibe, the culture, the feeling that this team doesn't have a leader who knows how to win when it counts. That when the lights are brightest, Stefanski shrinks instead of steps up. And in a city like Cleveland, where football means everything, that doesn't fly. You can't lose games like this. You can't come out with a game plan that makes zero sense, get embarrassed by your rival, and then expect a fan base to keep the faith. That's not how this works. And if ownership doesn't get that, then this franchise is in even more trouble than people think. This isn't about overreacting. This is about standards, expectations, accountability. And the fans have every right to expect better than what they just watched. Because what they saw on that field wasn't just a bad game. It was a meltdown. And unless the Browns make a serious change, whether that's Stefanski, the front office, or both, it's only going to get worse. Because this locker room, it won't stay patient forever. Veterans will start tuning out. Younger players will lose confidence. And that's when teams start falling apart from the inside. So if you're still here, still watching, still holding on after all this, go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let the world know if you think Stefanski should stay or go. Like this video if you're tired of seeing the same mistakes week after week. Share it if you got Browns fans in your life who are ready to throw the remote. And hit subscribe because something's going to break soon and we'll be here when it does. If you're still holding on to hope, still clinging to that last shred of belief that maybe, just maybe, Kevin Stefanski can turn this around, ask yourself this. What exactly has he shown you this season that makes you think change is coming? Because it's not just one blown game plan. It's not just a 52 passes Dylan Gabriel threw with defenders closing in on him like he owed them money. It's not just the 6 sacks or the dreadful third down conversions or the dead-on arrival offensive drives. It's the complete lack of direction, the refusal to adapt, the growing body of evidence that says Kevin Stefanski is no longer the solution. He is the problem. And it's not just Stefanski. It's the silence from Andrew Barry that feels just as damning. The GM isn't on the sideline calling plays, but he's the architect of his roster, the one signing off on the coaching staff, and the one letting this chaos continue week after week with zero visible accountability. This Browns team is spiraling. You can feel it. And it's not just about the scoreboard anymore. It's about leadership or the total lack of it. Let's go back to that Steelers game again, because the context matters. This wasn't a Thursday night throwaway or a meaningless Week 17 matchup. This was the rivalry game, one that fans circle on the calendar, one that carries weight far beyond standings. It's about pride, grit, culture, momentum. And the Browns didn't just lose it. They rolled in with a flawed plan and let the Steelers walk all over them in their own house. That's when people started saying it out loud. Stefanski needs to go. And sure, you'll still hear some of the usual defenders talking about he's not the one dropping passes, or he's not out there missing blocks. But guess what? He is the one calling plays that don't suit his quarterback. He is the one who decided to lean on a rookie like Dylan Gabriel, with zero real game management in place to protect him. And he is the one putting this entire offense in a position to fail week after week. The run game? Non-existent. The play action? Barely used. Adjustments? What adjustments? When things go south, Stefanski just doubles down on the same script like he's daring the universe to prove him wrong. Spoiler alert, it always does. And now we're stuck watching a coach who looks less like a leader and more like a guy pretending he still has control of the situation. The press conferences are the same rinse and repeat, talking points. We gotta coach better. We've gotta execute. We'll clean things up. No substance. No plan. Just noise. Meanwhile, the fan base is melting down. You can feel the frustration pouring out of Cleveland. On sports radio, in the comments, in the stands, you name it, there's no more patience. No more benefit of the doubt. And the louder the calls get, the more glaring the disconnect becomes between what fans are seeing and what the front office is doing. And the whole Shedeur Sanders conversation? Again, this isn't about logic. It's about emotion. Browns fans are reaching for anything that feels new, because what they're watching now is old, broken, and exhausting. Is Shedeur NFL ready? Doesn't matter. Is Deion Sanders leaving Colorado? Definitely not the point. What matters is that fans want something fresh. Someone with energy, swagger, competence, direction. Something this team hasn't had in years. You could plug in any name right now, and it would still feel like an upgrade to a lot of fans. That's how far Stefanski's stock has fallen. The leash is gone. The patience is gone. The trust is gone. And all that's left is a ticking clock until the Browns finally admit what everyone else already knows. Let's talk about that locker room. Because things like this don't stay hidden forever. Veterans see what's happening. They feel the impact of bad coaching decisions. And when they realize the staff isn't putting them in a position to succeed, it creates tension, division, apathy. Players stop buying in. The vibe shifts from we're building to this season's a wash. And that's dangerous, especially when you've got young guys in development who still need structure. That's the kind of long-term damage a failing coach can cause. And right now, every game Kevin Stefanski stays on the sidelines is a gamble on whether this roster can hold it together. Because if he loses the locker room completely, it's not just this season that's toast. It's next year too, maybe longer. And then there's the ownership angle. Because Jimmy and D. Haslam are watching this unfold. The question is, are they going to make a move when it matters, or wait until it's too late? Again? Because this team can't afford another slow collapse. Not with the pieces it has. Not with the fan base hanging on by a thread. Look at the schedule. Dolphins, Patriots, more division games down the line. If you think what we saw against Pittsburgh was ugly, wait until Tyreek Hill is streaking past confused defensive backs and Miami hangs 40 on a team that still can't figure out how to protect its quarterback. You want to talk about urgency? This is the moment. This is when you pull the plug on a coach who's clearly out of his depth and salvage whatever's left of the season. Because if they don't, it won't be just Stefanski's reputation that goes up in smoke. It'll be Barry's. It'll be the credibility of the entire front office. It'll be the Browns' last chance at proving they're not just the same old franchise with a fresh coat of paint. There's a reason fans are this loud, this emotional. They've seen what bad leadership looks like before. They've lived through it, survived it, and when they see it happening again, they don't need time to evaluate. They know the signs. They know the crash is coming. And they want someone in that building to finally hit the brakes before the whole thing explodes. And if you're still watching this team every week, still showing up, still screaming at your TV every time the Browns burn another timeout in the first quarter or run a draw play on 3rd and 9, you deserve better. You deserve a team that plays like it has a plan. A coach who coaches like the job actually matters. A front office that understands this window won't stay open forever. The Browns can't waste another year. Not when the division is this competitive. Not when the fans are this fed up. Not when the locker room is on the verge of turning cold. This needs to be the end of the line for Stefanski. Because if it's not, then this franchise is telling everyone, loud and clear, that they're okay with mediocrity. That they're okay with wasting potential. That they're okay with losing. And no fan base, especially not this one, should have to accept that. Here's the thing nobody in the Browns organization wants to admit out loud. This is a full-blown crisis. Not a mid-season slump. Not a bump in the road. This is systemic failure from the top down, and the fans know it. You don't get this level of outrage from one bad game. This kind of backlash only happens when the people paying the most attention, the fans, realize they've been sold a lie. The lie that Kevin Stefanski is a long-term solution. That this coaching staff is building something sustainable. That just trust the process is still a valid excuse. After what we all watched against the Steelers, that trust is gone. It's burned, torched, nuked into orbit. And let's be honest, this isn't just about football anymore. It's about respect. The Browns fan base has been through more heartbreak than almost any in the league. They've stuck around through awful seasons, quarterback graveyards, front office implosions, and primetime embarrassments. And still they show up, week after week, year after year. That kind of loyalty deserves more than what Kevin Stefanski is giving them right now. Because what he's giving them is not professional football. It's a clinic in how to lose winnable games. You don't just go up against your bitterest rival and throw the ball 52 times with a rookie quarterback unless you're either desperate or delusional. And right now, Stefanski looks like both. Desperate to prove he's still got the offensive genius thing going. Delusional enough to believe that Dylan Gabriel, in his current developmental stage, was ever equipped to run a one-dimensional, pass-heavy offense against one of the most aggressive defenses in the league. No adjustments. No balance. No chance. And while we're at it, let's talk about what's not being said from inside the Browns building. There's no fire. No accountability. No urgency. Just the same calm, quiet deflections and pressers. We gotta execute better. We'll go back and look at the film. How many more weeks of that do fans have to sit through? Because the answers aren't in the film anymore. The answers are in the results. And right now, the results are screaming that this team is not prepared, not motivated, and not being led the way a playoff contender should be. Even the defense, who's been solid more often than not, looks gassed from carrying the weight. You can only ask them to do so much when the offense can't stay on the field longer than a TikTok video. Eventually, the body language starts to shift. Guys, stop flying to the ball. Frustration creeps in. That bend, don't break turns into straight-up breaking. That's what happens when one side of the ball is constantly bailing out the other and nothing changes. And this is where the future starts looking really grim. Because the Browns' schedule is not letting up. Miami is explosive. New England may be rebuilding, but Belichick will find every flaw and exploit it. And the AFC North, it's not waiting around for Cleveland to figure it out. This isn't a division where you can afford to sleepwalk through a month and hope to recover. Every game is a street fight. And right now, the Browns are walking into those fights with a coach who looks like he's reading the playbook upside down. This is the point where successful organizations make hard decisions. They don't wait for the locker room to fully unravel. They don't wait for the fan base to check out completely. They act. They admit what isn't working, and they move on. Because every week you wait is another week wasted. And this team, it's out of weeks to waste. But what are the Browns doing? Still giving Stefanski the keys. Still pretending this season can be salvaged with some better execution. Like execution is the issue here and not the absurdity of trying to run a one-size-fits-all system with personnel that clearly doesn't fit. Even the fans who were defending Stefanski a few weeks ago, they've gone quiet. Because how do you defend this? How do you watch the team crash and burn in such predictable fashion, and then turn around and say, let's give it more time? The time is gone. The experiment has failed. And holding on longer just increases the damage. Now the conversation has shifted. It's not just about getting Stefanski out. It's about what comes next. And right now, a huge chunk of the fan base is already thinking about the draft, about quarterbacks, about coaches with actual presence, coaches who know how to scheme around a rookie's limitations, coaches who don't stubbornly stick to their script while the season burns around them. That's why names like Shedeur Sanders are popping up, not because he's the perfect fit, not because he's guaranteed to be great, but because fans are looking for anything that feels like it could bring real change. Someone with fire, with upside, with vision. Right now, Stefanski has none of that. He looks checked out, lost, and worst of all, comfortable. Comfortable losing. Comfortable repeating the same failed game plan. Comfortable giving post-game quotes that say nothing. That's what's driving people up the wall. This isn't a coach fighting for his job. This is a coach going through the motions. And if the Browns are serious about being contenders, about not wasting the talent they do have, they cannot let this continue. Because if they do, they're telling everyone that failure is fine as long as it's polite and professional looking. That losing is acceptable if it comes with calm press conferences and tidy sound bites. But fans don't want calm. They want action. They want accountability. They want a coach who can walk into the building and say, that was on me, and it won't happen again. Not someone who shrugs off 6 sacks and 52 passes, like it was just part of the plan. Cleveland deserves better. The players deserve better. And at this point, even Kevin Stefanski probably knows it's over. So here's where we land. If the front office doesn't step in, the season's gone. Not slipping, gone. The culture? Damaged. The momentum? Killed. And whatever trust still existed between the team and its fans? Shattered. Because this was supposed to be the season the Browns finally broke through. The season the front office's grand vision came together. But now, that vision looks like a fever dream. And the man steering the ship looks completely unfit to fix it. So go ahead, vent in the comments. Say what needs to be said. Let it out. If you're tired of watching your team throw away winnable games, you're not alone. Like this if you've screamed at your screen in the last month. Share it with someone who swore Stefanski was the guy. And hit subscribe if you're ready for this team to finally make a real change. Because one thing's for sure, if they don't, the meltdown we just witnessed is only the beginning.